exhibit here out in the hallway. And then he was also one of our young participants in our first TEDx conference when you did the Young Innovators Share Their Ideas. And that was only last summer?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And when you presented your art project about drawing a face for a year on Facebook, he's a Staples graduate, and now he's a big deal freshman at the Savannah College of Art and Design. So, ladies and gentlemen, Carson Einarsen.
Thanks. Since this is a lot more personal than I, had thought, we'll just kind of go through this nice and slowly and figure it out. So what this is basically, what I'm talking about is, I've done a lot of writing, and I've always tried to figure out how exactly to publish because it's such an intimidating field. And so one of the things recently that I've looked into is the print-on-demand services and e-publishing. And so that's one of the things that's the main thing that I'm going to be getting into today. Basically, the idea of getting published is something that anyone who's written a book is interested in. To be among the greats out there, just to be a part of that world, is something that everyone who's written a book is interested in, that I know of. And it's kind of an honor that a lot of people search for. But to get published, you really need to look at, to get among those, you need to look at the big publishers. These are 3 of the big ones that I know of. Otherwise, it's kind of a scary place out there. It's a forest at night. So this is just a little bit about traditional publishing. This is more directed at the younger kids in the audience, if they didn't know. Younger kids. So anyways, just the idea of what to do if you actually want to submit. I'm sure you've all heard this before, but it's just the idea that you send in a bundle of stuff, which of course starts with the cover letter. I'm sure you all know what a cover letter is. But basically, you just put your name, your number, information about your book, and each publisher is different, what they want, their specifications. This is something that's really key, the margins, spacing, just the little nitpicky things. Some publishers have some really strange, things that they need for it. Hi there. And it's one of those things that you really don't want to get declined simply because you had, Times New Roman font instead of Arial font. And so each publisher has their own thing. The majority, it's 8.5 by 11, double spaced, that sort of thing. But I was just looking at one the other day that had some really strange specifications. So like certain fonts that they accepted and other ones they didn't. So you want to be aware of that. Simultaneous submissions is something that I hadn't even heard of before I did some research, and that's just the idea of if you send in a submission, you need to have, certain publishers require to let you know if it's a simultaneous submission, which means if you're sending a manuscript to multiple publishers, you need to let them know. Some won't let you do simultaneous submissions, and so it's just something that you need to be aware of. And again, every publisher is different. Agents, this is something that I really don't know that much about. It's just I would like to mention that some publishers only accept solicited publications from agents, and that's something to look into. Anyways, one of the problems with publishing is that oftentimes a good idea is overlooked, such as the Sorcerer's Stone, which was rejected 9 times before it was finally accepted. The Princess Diaries, which was rejected 17 times before being accepted. Dune, considered one of the greatest sci-fi novels of all time, was rejected 23 times before being accepted. Watership Down and A Wrinkle in Time, 2 American classics, were both rejected 26 times before being accepted. Stephen King's first novel was rejected 30 times before being accepted. Gone with the Wind was rejected 38 times before being accepted. And The Help, one of the best books in the last few years, was rejected 60 times before being accepted. And Catherine Stockett, the author of The Help, actually was quoted saying, "What if I had stopped at 15 or 40 or 60? And that was actually the idea that spawned a lot of the self-publishing and print-on-demand services. And I would like to mention journals and magazines. They are a good way to kind of get seen. It's shorter length stuff. You really have you take snippets of your novel and stuff, because print-on-demand or journals and magazines are fairly shorter. But it is a good way to build credentials and to build an audience, two things that are very important for a self-publisher. So I sat down and thought about what you really get out of publishing from an actual publisher, and the things that you actually acquire from it. The first of all is audience. It's really great having people actually read your stuff and having you being known. The physical copy of a book is really nice. Having it being printed, having it seen, walking into a Barnes & Noble and having your book right there. A living. If you're interested in making a living off of writing, that is one of the things that publishing can get you, because it's very difficult otherwise. Verification. This is something that I personally is very important to me. It's just the idea that if you're accepted by a publisher, that means that your work is good enough and you're a good enough writer. And it's verification of that, which is really nice. Then again, you do get rejected every once in a while. And also that warm, fuzzy feeling, which is just always really nice. The first idea is ebooks, which is one of the two things we're going to be talking about, which is just any book that you see through any electronic device. The majority, it's computers, Kindles, Nooks, and iPads. Those are the big ones which have revolutionized the industry in the last 5 years, even 3 years. The amount of ebooks that have been sold since these have come out is exponential. And so this idea of ebooks versus normal books, you've got, in 2010, it was estimated that 114 million ebooks were sold. And that between 2010 and 2011, there was an increase of 117% in sales. And of those sales, 20% of them were books that are not available in print. They were books that were specifically only electronic books. So this is a huge market that's really starting to grow. How it's done, I'm going to focus on Kindle. For anyone who knows the internet at all, it's pretty straightforward. Kindle especially, I just typed into Google Kindle publishing, and this is what came up. You would just make a user account, and you sign in, and you upload your file, you make a cover, you do all that, it gets submitted, and then from there it can be seen on the Kindle store, it can be bought on the Kindle store, it can be put on the Kindle Top 100 list. There's this one person that I found who had just written some stories, put them up on the Kindle. Within a few months, it was on the Kindle 100 list, and he's selling 180 books a day of these 5 novels that he's written. And he's making a living off of it now. The thing about the Nook and the iPad, they're a little more difficult to actually get published on. That's something that you need software, because they need to be EPUB format, which if you have Pages, for anyone who has Macs, you can export through EPUB. But for other than that, you need some software to kind of convert it, and they're a little more tricky. But for the most part, they're still great software, great products, and they can be seen really well. The other thing is print on demand, which, for those of you who don't know, it's normal printing. You go out and you buy, let's say the publisher's like, let's buy 10,000 copies of this book. So they print 10,000. And then once one's bought, they just give them the book. With print on demand, it only exists kind of in space. You give it to the print on demand person, and it's just there. Then when someone actually buys it, then they make a physical copy of the book. But it's only once it's actually bought. So the timing is a little different. You've got an extra, some print-on-demand services, you don't get your stuff for 2 to 4 weeks, simply because it takes a while to print. but the prices have actually decreased incredibly. In 10 years ago, if you got a print-on-demand book, it would cost about $20. I got a book printed that was 80 pages. I got that printed for $4 and shipped to me for $5, and it came in 2 days. So that was through Lulu.com, and it was a phenomenal service and really incredible. So these are some of the ones that are big names. CreateSpace is run through Amazon, and it's an incredible service. I have not actually tried it myself, but it has gotten incredible reviews, and it's the next place I'm going to check out. But it's pretty similar to Lulu. You upload your stuff, and it gets printed. The great thing about CreateSpace is that since it's linked to Kindle and Amazon, you can upload it directly to Kindle and on the Amazon store. Lulu is great for that as well. You can also do e-publishing. ComicPress is for anyone who's interested in comic books or graphic novels, because of the images, since they're a lot more image heavy, it usually costs a lot more in print, but ComicPress has it down, so it costs a lot less. And MagCloud is for anyone who's interested in magazines. It's a print-on-demand service for magazines, and it's a lot more high quality, but a little bit more expensive. So anyways, the process. For Lulu, I got through this. You have to focus on formatting your work correctly. You can hire Lulu to format it for you, but again, that costs a little bit of money. I sat down and formatted one of my things in one night, and it was no problem at all. But you create an account, you sign in, you hit publish books, you get choices of different sizes, paperback, binding, saddle stitch, ring, hardcover. They have tons of options, and each one is differently cost. From there, you choose the paper that you want, how many pages it is, the size, the binding. They have tons of options, so you can really get exactly what you want. And then you upload your files, and they have to be the right ones, otherwise it kind of gets a little off and they send you back. And then from there, you can send out to get a proof. For those of you who don't know what a proof is, it's just a book to see how it looks. You don't worry about the cover, you don't worry about anything like that. It's the interiors, if the pages are correct, if it's the right size, if the pages are in the right order, of course. And this is a good time to hand it off to friends and colleagues and see what they think of the writing, if there are any grammatical mistakes, things like that. Again, you can focus on the cover later. With print-on-demand services, especially with Lulu, it doesn't cost anything to change the cover. It doesn't cost anything at all. So your first printing could just be, the words on the cover, and then later you can go back and add things to that. And the big thing is ISBNs. This is the barcode that you see on just about everything nowadays. Individually, ISBNs cost about $90. But the great thing about these print-on-demand services, especially Lulu and CreateSpace, is that they buy them in bulk. So that when you publish through these services, you get them for free, or just a little bit. Lulu is, you get a free ISBN when you buy the book, or publish the book. I don't know about CreateSpace, but it's because of these services that you get them for really cheap, and this allows you to sell them in places like Amazon.com. You can't sell a product there. Well, I don't think you can sell a product there without an ISBN, but it opens your options up a lot more for the market. Anyways, the business side of it. If you want to make a living off of books like these, you really need to look at the business. It's the difference between just any writer, artist, person, and an actual businessman. There are a lot of places that you can go. One of the things I looked at was Indiegogo and Kickstarter, which are two places just to raise funds for a project, which is great if you want to do a print-on-demand service, since individually each book is a little bit more expensive than it would be from a normal publisher. You can recoup the cost a little bit through one of these services. Kickstarter especially, I've used plenty of times. It's great. Basically, you create a project like, I want to get this book, I want to print out 100 copies of this book, which would cost around $200 or $300 through a print-on-demand service. And so then you set your goal of, I want to make $400. then you put up rewards where you say, if you support me by pledging like $5, I will give you a copy of the book. If you do $10, you know, I'll write you in as a character in the book, or you know, I'll put you in the back as in a thank you section. And so people actually agree to these rewards and pledge money to it. And if you make all of the money, if you make your goal, then you get all that money to actually do what you say you're going to do. If the money is not reached, you don't get anything. So it's really sad when you're like $5 away and you don't make it because you get nothing. But it's really cool seeing this work because not only do you actually get money to produce it, but you also gain an audience because Kickstarter itself has a huge audience of people who just want to support people. It's really great. And so to have people support your project, all of a sudden you've got, say, 20 or 30 or 40 or 100 people that actually have your book or know of your book. And then you can put them on an emailing list, and the next time you put on a book, you can email them all again saying, I'm putting out a new book, would you like to come support it? And so you can actually really make yourself go far that way. There have been projects that have made millions of dollars on Kickstarter. There was a comic book that only has stick figures that just had such a following, it made over $1 million to reprint its book. It was incredible. Anyways, let's review. So if you have e-publishing and print-on-demand, which at this point most of them go hand in hand, if you use places like CreateSpace or Lulu, they really go hand in hand. And so I looked at those key points that I came up with from an actual publisher to see if you could get the same result from e-publishing and print-on-demand. And you do get an audience, especially with e-publishing. There are so many people out there, 114 million books sold. That's a lot of people that are reading. So you can gain an audience. It's difficult, it's challenging, there's a reason not everyone does it. But you can gain a huge audience. Through Kickstarter, you can get an audience. Just printing your books by hand and handing them out on the street, you can gain an audience. Physical books, with print on demand, you get that book. And I'll be honest, it feels really nice when you get like a book that looks real and that you wrote. To make a living, there are people that are doing it. This person that I heard about, he's making like $134,000 a year just from writing these books, and just because they're on the top 100 list on Amazon. And he's planning on like releasing more, and this is just from one series of books. Verification. It's not as immediate as from an actual publisher because there isn't anyone that just says, this is great. But if you do have people that are reading your things, if you do have people that are commenting online like, this is really great, then you do slowly build that up, and it is really nice to hear. And the warm fuzzy feeling, hopefully you just get that from writing in general. But you can get it just from self-publishing, and for me, it was just getting the book in print and having it there, and it feels really nice. One of the things that we were talking about was the Westport Public Library in general, which is actually the reason I'm here talking, was that I came to them with an idea about having the library kind of have a publishing branch of its own. And it's still in its infant baby stages. But it's something that we're talking about since the library has such a great audience already. And the services are out there for print on demand and ebooks, and the library has this push for ebooks. It's one of those things that we're looking into. So again, if you're interested, definitely talk to librarians, tell them you're interested. They love to hear it, I'm sure. And this is just a last thought from Margaret Atwood, a Canadian author, where she said that publishing a book is like stuffing a note into a bottle and hurling it out to sea, and that some books drown and some make it safely to land where the notes are read and hopefully cherished. And that's all I've got. I can go into more detail on certain aspects of it. I kind of, just went with the basics. But if anyone has any other questions or comments about the different parts of self-publishing or e-publishing, I will do my best to answer them.
So do you find that
Hi.
that fiction and nonfiction are doing well in e-publishing? Is one stronger than the other?
Actually, nonfiction is doing a lot better in e-publishing. I don't know why. fiction is making a comeback, numbers-wise, but for some reason, nonfiction is outselling fiction. I think it's like 3-2. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's something along those lines. Yes. Yes.
Did you bring examples of your own books?
There is one currently in the library, but I'm pretty sure it's locked away in Maxine's office. So I don't have it on hand, but I can guarantee it's nice quality, and it's shiny and got font on it.
And who published that one?
That was through Lulu. I've had 2 books printed through Lulu. Since they are kind of, everyone makes mistakes. The first book I got printed through them, it arrived, and it had the right cover on it and everything. And I flip it open, and it's supposed to be like a crime novel. And I flip it open, and it's like, Mrs. Smith's 8 Steps to Writing Poetry. It's like, what? And so they had misplaced the entire interior of the book with this poetry writing thing. So I sent them an email, and they got me a new copy within 2 days, and it was fine. But I just thought that was really funny. The second book that I got printed through them was fine. Arrived in 2 days, and it was great. So, yeah. Yes.
Forgive me for maybe asking something covered.
No, that's fine.
But what's the minimum number of books you can have published at a time?
Through e-publishing or
Yeah.
print on demand?
Well, like the one you did with a hard copy.
Oh, for print on demand, it's 1. You could probably get half a book printed as well. I'm not sure the point there, but
Really?
The installment plan.
Yeah, exactly. That's the great thing about the industry now is this idea and the whole concept behind self-publishing, you really couldn't do 10 years ago. E-publishing just wasn't anything really because it was only on computers that you could really publish, and then scrolling through pages, it just didn't work. Print on demand, again, it would cost a lot just to get 1 book because you'd have to pay someone to individually make the book. And now things have just increased. They've created a great business plan of, since they know so many people are going to be printing through them, it's not that you're getting 1 book, it's that your 1 book is amongst many books that are getting printed. And so they cut the cost that way, and so you can save, a lot of money. My book was printed for $4. Did I even mention this? Okay, yeah. My book was printed for $4, $5 shipping. It got to me in 2 days for under $10, which is great. And this was an 80-page book. For a 200-page book, it's $16. For a hardcover book, I think it's, for 200 pages, it's $8. For a hardcover copy, 200, it's $16. For a 50-page color picture book, it's like $25. It's a really great service. And there are a lot of people out there doing it, so you can really look around. But from my experience, Lulu has gotten the best reviews, and it's pretty great. Yes?
What rewards did you offer on Kickstarter?
Oh, I haven't actually done a Kickstarter. I've just supported a lot of Kickstarters.
Oh.
Once I have something to Kickstart, I'm going to be there like white on rice. Kickstarter is just a great place. They support video games, comic books, art in general, publication of books, music. They have everything, and it's honestly really fun to just kind of scroll through their things and find a project and just support like $1, just to help them out because there are some really cool projects there. Yeah.
Can you embed videos in ebooks?
You can. It's more difficult to do. I'm not sure if Kindle does it. I know through EPUB and iBookstore, there's actually a application called iAuthor, and through there you can easily embed videos and stuff like that. And then from iAuthor, you can publish straight to the iBookstore.
Right.
The thing about iAuthor that I learned the hard way is that it's more of a nonfiction, more elegant kind of books. I started writing on it, just writing a novel, and the page formats that they have implemented are landscape view, stuff like that. It's not really more for the writing of the novel. It's more for if you have pictures and video and stuff like that. some more for like textbooks and that kind of thing.
Do they have what kind of copyright rules? Like, let's say you're using somebody else's picture. Do they care? Do they require you to follow copyright?
I'm for print on demand, I know they do, and I'm pretty sure for e-publishing they would as well. I'm sure if you got authority from the person whose image it was, but otherwise I think it's just having it printed would just be
because your book has your own images in it.
Yeah.
You did the illustrations.
Yeah. So that would
save some copyright.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were a few minutes late.
Oh, no, it's fine.
What was your book? What was the name of your book?
Oh no! This was just a book that I'm still in the process of finishing up. Where I wrote it over the summer. It was a children's chapter book, 80 pages, my illustrations, and I did it over the summer just for fun. And then I got it printed through Lulu as a proof, to sit down and read through it, figure out there. And now I'm going to go back through, revise it, and get it printed again. So.
It's for young children. Is it geared towards?
Yeah, it's elementary school, mid-elementary school, young elementary school. It's the fantasy, find another world kind of thing. Have a talking teddy bear. Sky Kid Todd and the Tower of Storms. Coming soon to library near you.
It's part of the series.
It's part of the series, yes. Sky Kid Todd, he goes everywhere. Hopefully there will be more information about that another time. This is more just as since I have this information now, I would have liked to know it when I was younger. Because I started my first book when I was in 2nd grade, and I finished my first book when I was in 6th grade. Separate books, of course. But since then, I've written a bunch of novels, and, they're not all good. Most of them aren't. But you kind of... there's been that shadow of publication over me since, forever, where you always wonder, are you good enough? And there are just so many people submitting. I think I saw a statistic that was like 82% of people polled on the internet believed that they could write a book. And so of that percentage, the amount of people who write a book, and then the amount that actually submit, it's just the number of people that are submitting to publishers is astronomical. And so that was always something that scared me as a kid. And so now that you can kind of do it yourself, I just think that's a really great tool to have. And also there's a book, The School Story by Andrew Clements. It's, elementary school level reading. I read that when I was in elementary school, and that really, it's a narrative about this girl who wants to get her book published. And so it talks about the publishing industry in a fun way, but also kind of scares you to it.
Well, Time magazine is most latest issue has an article about how finally reviewers are looking at self-published material because they're somehow rising to the top.
Yeah.
Any review sources, they're making it.
I found I think it was like 70% of the books, like printed books currently on the market, are either small press or self-publishing. And I mean, I think they take small press, with a little grain of salt, but that's just, it's a big number. If you look at Random House or Penguin or Scholastic, they're no longer, the people to go to, simply because there are so many other options out there now where you can still go far. And I mean, if you look at the amount of rejections those people got, you should definitely keep trying. Yeah, Catherine Socket, I read this whole thing where she was talking about how, like, on Rejection 40, she went to a literary conference and was talking with this author. He was like, oh, you gotta keep trying. I was rejected 14 times before I finally got my novel. How many times have you been rejected? She was like, 41? He was like, no. But, she kept working at it, and finally, on 61, she got accepted. And
That's great.
it's worked out.
So one of the things that traditional publishers do is promote the book. I mean, that's a large part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So other than Kickstarter, what kinds of things are self-published authors doing to promote their books?
Well, the internet. It's something, especially if you're younger, you want to be careful because the internet is huge and terrifying. But for the most part, the internet is a great place. This person, I can't believe I don't know his name, who was talking about how he's making a living off of his books, and he sells 180 books a day. He was talking about how he would just post pictures on Facebook, take screenshots of the web page of it being like, your book's published, put it on Facebook. Your book's in the top 100, he put it on Facebook. And so it's just like that way of spreading. If you use Facebook correctly, it can be a great way to kind of spread the knowledge between people that you know. There are a lot of services online through Lulu and CreateSpace where you can actually pay the companies, and they have the premium package where they will promote you. They will find ways to put advertisements up for you to put up a trailer for your book on their bookstores that they have there. So there are a lot of ways that you can get seen. I think probably the best is simply go out there and spread the word of your book. Christopher Paolini, who wrote Aragon, before it was published by HarperCollins, I think, published it, he printed it on his own. Once he had finished writing it, him and his family, they printed books and went down the California coast and just stopped in bookstores. And he got dressed up in his chainmail armor and read from the book at story time to the kids in the bookstores. And he did that for, I think, almost a year, just promoting the book before some famous person's son read the book and handed it to him being like, this would be such a good book. And that's how it got published. But it's one of those things where I think the best way is really just getting people to read it. Because especially online, it's all just numbers and statistics. But actually having someone hold a copy of the book and reading it, it's just nice. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling. It's nice. Yeah. Well, okay.
Nice job. And we have it podcast so that it'll be available on the website for people to listen to. It was a great presentation.
Well, perfect.
Yeah.